How deep does the corruption in Hollywood go? Possibly to before the place even existed. Find out how on Seemingly Unrelated. Welcome back to Seemingly Unrelated. As the podcast where we find the incredible, true stories about everyday life through the lens of history, society, and culture. I'm your host, Dr. Andrew Johnstone, lecturer in media, culture, and society at the University of Glasgow. And this week, I'm still joined by the chief engineer, the editor, the engine that keeps this whole thing running. She has not quit out of disgust. It is Naomi. Naomi, welcome back. I've remembered you twice in a row now.
Yeah, thank you for not forgetting to introduce me. And there's still time for me to quit. If you forget me one more time, Andrew, I'm out of here.
I think that's a Britney Spears song. So, as has been the case for so much of season 2, we've got a special guest. Special guest who's an author of many written works and a real mensch, I think is the best way to describe him. It is Phil W. Bayles. Phil, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. It is a thrill to finally be here after listening to so many episodes of it.
I love it. And if you wouldn't mind, you just take a minute and introduce yourself to the audience. Let them know, what is it? What do you do? Why are you a really interesting guy that they want to listen to? No pressure.
Oh, gosh, no pressure. Yeah, so I am a former journalist. I tooled around for a while in London and Paris trying to make a career out of that, and then realized that I much preferred making stories up, but apparently that's an ethical violation if you go into journalism. So I just stepped sideways into writing fiction. And I also, on the side, I've also got a side hustle going as the English version of Andrew, as you can see by the fact that we're both wearing the same color t-shirt and we've both got the beards and the glasses. So if the writing thing doesn't work, I can just be an Andrew Johnstone impersonator.
Twins. I think that is the thing that people say whenever we walk into a room together.
Oh, yeah. I can't work out who's who.
Oh, my God. It's
until you talk and hear the accents. I'm confused.
Point at him. Will we become a meme? Phil, you like movies. Can you answer the question, how did Hollywood in the 20th century become the center of sort of the global cinema, become the premier film location?
Oh, I mean, if I had to guess, it's money saving. My guess would be that land out west back in the turn of the 20th century was super cheap.
Sure.
So it was a good way for studios to get a lot of land on which to build a lot very quickly. Let's just go out to this other end of the country that's full of open deserts that we can just slap a backlot onto. And then after a while, once everything's out west, it kind of said, well, you can set itself in opposition to the East Coast, which is predominantly like New York, and I guess setting itself against the theater. Like, well, Broadway's over there, Broadway's back east, but we're out west, we're the new thing. Everybody's making movies out in California.
Beautiful. That is so much of the story that we hear, is that out west, the grand, epic, adventurous out west, there was just acres and acres of empty land. No one was out there except a bunch of Indians. And of course, we got rid of those guys. And just, it became that, you're right, exactly, that counterpoint to Broadway, which had wasn't quite super established by the 20th century, but it was a known thing. It wasn't the phenomenon it becomes, but I guess they kind of come up together in a lot of ways. And the only part you're missing from the typical narrative is the weather. It's just early cinema, you didn't have a lot of light. You didn't have like a lot of electric lights you could use. So you needed to film during golden hour or whatever, or at least using natural light. And it just doesn't rain very often in Southern California. So perfect. You can film for days and days and never have a cloud in the sky.
And I imagine that if it's the turn of the century as well, a lot of the stuff that we have to, I mean, the fact that we had to worry about, windows open and background sound when we're recording the podcast, but, turn of the century, everything's silent. So it doesn't matter if there's all kinds of ruckus going on in the background because you're not bothered about the sound. You're literally just shooting the visuals.
No, there can be a whole genocide happening just off the camera, and no one will know about it. They won't hear a damn thing. So that's the mainstream story. And when we hear this narrative of like Hollywood started as this kind of rugged individual artists just trying to push this medium forward and really landing on the place that they could do it very cheaply, as you know, very efficiently, very effectively. And then as it grew, it becomes this monster. And it's almost as if Los Angeles gets choked by the fumes of all the traffic and the smog and everything, which I've seen with my own eyes. And it's really bizarre. It's crazy. If you were to guess who is, in the year 1900, as far as Americans are concerned, the most important person when it comes to the film industry, particularly the technology, but the film industry as a whole?
I mean, it's got to be whoever's making the cameras, right?
Sure. And who allegedly invented the camera?
Oh, I'm guessing that you're not meaning the Lumiere brothers, right?
No. See, that would be accurate. Who's history's greatest villain when it comes to stealing other people's work?
Oh, Thomas Edison.
Yeah, it's Thomas Edison. Yeah.
Hey, there he is.
Thomas Edison, he claimed to have invented the film camera. Now, that is if you get into the weeds on it, there are like 9 different people who invented the film camera right around like within a year and a half of each other. Like when we look at the patent filings. So nobody fucking invented the film camera. It just was the time. This is
I didn't realize Thomas Edison is known to be a big fake.
Oh.
Is this like a common fact?
Well, the story I was told as a kid that you probably heard is that he invented like a million things, like the light bulb and the film camera and the electric chair. That one's true. But
he killed an elephant with it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He electrocuted an elephant to death.
That's the worst
camera.
one to claim as well. That is like, of all of the things you listed, that's the one you don't want put to your name.
So in 1900, the film industry is basically owned by Edison. Like, he has patent claims on the camera, all of them, in the US, and his production company, Edison Films, makes, I think, something like 85 or 88% of all of the films that come out in the US. Now, we've already established this in an earlier episode. Go back to season 2, episode 4. Could Mickey Mouse make insulin cheaper? To learn a little bit more about Edison's actual patents that he filed on that. So anyone who tried to then make a movie, and this is where Edison's true colors shine, who tried to not pay him to do it, would get sued. He was infamous for just trolling people with lawsuits. Even if he didn't have a patent, he'd say, I think I can get away with it, and just start filing a lawsuit because people would just cave, because the alternative is to go to court against an incredibly rich and powerful man that everybody knows. So most of the films in the US are Edison films. The alternative, of course, was you could import films from France or from the United Kingdom, but you had to then pay import duties. So those were more expensive premium films that would have just, if you're exhibiting, it's a new technology. How many people are going to the movies? You got to do the cost benefit analysis, right? And it's probably expensive to ship it anywhere other than, say, New York. So, in 1907, all of the other filmmaking companies got together and they formed the Motion Picture Patents Company, which just created one set of license agreements with Edison. Basically just saying, we're all at the table together. We're going to pool our resources. We're, as one company, going to pay you, Edison, a certain amount of money per year, and then we get to go make all the movies we want to make, right? And also, what we'll make sure to do is we'll hold films to a higher standard. We'll make sure that people aren't just making schlock, which was one of Edison's big complaints was, well, one, he really didn't want people making pornographic content. He was extremely against that. And two, he didn't want film to ever look cheap, which is a big problem if you like exhibit the same film more than, say, I don't know, 10 times. The quality of the film starts to degrade. He didn't like that. So they're like, we'll take care of that. You know, we got Eastman Kodak on board. They'll make the highest quality film stock. And in order to make sure the content remained good, air quotes, they also agreed to limiting films to one reel. That's it. Which, I don't know, Phil, do you know how, you're, again, as a cinemaphile, do you know how many reels the typical, like, feature-length, film is?
I mean, it's got to be at least 3 or 4, right? I mean, depending on. I mean, if it's like Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, forget about it. That shit's got to be. I think I read somewhere that the IMAX reel for Oppenheimer was like 10 miles long or something daft like that. If you laid all the film out end to end, it was just some ungodly distance.
And if I remember correctly, I believe it's a 2-man job. Like, you cannot, unless you're a power lifter, you can't get that thing into the camera. 7's pretty normal. Like a 7 reel today, because films are usually like 2 hours long. So one reel in the first decade of the 20th century would be about 13 minutes. So it's just shorts. It's just what we would, it's just the thing that comes on before the Pixar movie starts.
Do you know what I'm realizing, which makes me feel that I'm being young, is that's why they call it Instagram Reels. Just realized that.
I only just realized that.
Yeah, that's why it's called Reels, because they're short. Like a reel, yeah.
Everything old is new again.
Yeah,
that's it.
So, if there's one thing we know about artists, is they don't give a fuck about the rules. People want to make a movie longer than 13 minutes, right? That's insane. If it was only short film, if you could only exhibit short film, there wouldn't be a film industry like there is today. So in order for these artists, these filmmakers, these people who want their creative freedom restored to get around, to skirt those rules, they needed to figure out a way to make films, to exhibit films, and then not get sued. Or at least delay the lawsuit long enough that they could perhaps cover up the evidence, right? So they were looking for 3 things. Thing number 1 is that they needed to get a little bit of a distance from Thomas Edison, right? So remember, it's 1907 and airplanes don't exist. Actually, Kitty Hawk has just happened. So like the first airplane exists, but that's it. So getting from New Jersey, which is where Thomas Edison lives, to the west coast of the United States took typically a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks, depending.
Jesus.
And that was fast, because as we established in the previous episode, it used to be 6 months. So like, it's a journey and a half. So You need to be a little bit away. West Coast is a good option. You also, it would be convenient, perhaps, if your faraway location was also, say, close to, I don't know, Mexico, just in case you need to get out of town real fast. He can't sue you if he doesn't speak Spanish. And the third factor, and really, genuinely, this is the most important factor, is they needed a friendly court system that was not going to enforce patent law too strictly. So again, if you can delay the investigators coming to find you, then you can try to cover up the evidence. And if that doesn't quite work, if they catch you by surprise, then you want to get into a court that's going to slow the process down, and you want that court to just not care, just not want to enforce any laws. And I got news for you. LA County hit all three of these very important metrics because, one, it's a 2-week train ride from New Jersey to Los Angeles, as we established.
Check.
2, it is a 2-hour horse ride from Los Angeles to the Mexican border.
Check.
And 3, LA County is still currently in the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals. Folks, if you go to our Patreon page, this is a free post, patreon.com/seemingly unrelated. I'm going to put the actual court cases, like digital copies of some of these court cases. The 9th Circuit Court of Appeals treated patent law like a 3-year-old treats broccoli. It was like they'll put it in their mouth for a second and then immediately spit it back in your face. Hilariously obvious, blatant violations of patent law. And these guys are like, yeah, but it's pretty obvious. Like, you didn't invent anything special. So we're pretty sure this isn't novel. Anyway, fuck you. You don't get anything. This guy can do whatever he wants.
To be fair, I feel like Thomas Edison's rules are stupid. So
Exactly.
I feel like you, as a human, you could just be like, your rules are stupid, so we're not going to do that. I don't care if it's law.
Exactly. And that is what the 9th Circuit Court of Appeals is all about in the United States. So, good news. Los Angeles County had everything we needed. Now, Phil, you want to hazard a guess using your... This will be a great pub quiz question one day. What do you think was the first movie filmed, produced, and distributed from the city of Los Angeles?
Ooh. If you're asking me this is, but it sounds like this is going to be a film that I've heard of.
I mean, that you've heard of? Maybe. Not normal people, though.
I mean, I'm going to go for just the most horrifying answer I can think of and say, is it going to turn out that it was Birth of a Nation or something?
Thank God it was not Birth of the Nation.
Oh, thank God.
No. 1909, okay? Late summer, early autumn, 1909, the Selig Production Company set up, it's in Chicago, it's a Chicago-based film company. They set up an LA office in a part of Los Angeles called Edendale, which does not exist anymore. It is not a neighborhood anymore. It is now called Silver Lake or Glendale. And their first film came out in 1909. It was Ben's Kid. You know Ben's Kid?
That's new to me.
You will know the star, though. This is the film debut of Fatty Arbuckle.
Oh.
This is wild. So Fatty Arbuckle is indeed the first Hollywood star.
Who is that?
Fatty Arbuckle is one of the first comedy stars. He's a fat dude. Shocker. They called him Fatty. And he starred in a lot of movies. I think Brewster's Millions, the original, not the one with Richard Pryor. But actually, Fatty Arbuckle became famous, or as maybe we remember him for the like murder of Virginia Rapp, where he was one of the 3 defendants who were on trial. But it was a series of hung juries, so nobody ever like went to jail for that. And then he died of a heart attack, and everyone's like, well, he was a fat guy. So, and he went, well, no, that's not, it's probably all the drugs. He's an early film legend, Fatty Arbuckle. That's the first movie made in Hollywood. The money from that movie, though, was then put into 1910's The Wizard of Oz. Naomi, you have to know what The Wizard of Oz is.
I am familiar.
Now,
1910,
this is the 1910
though.
Wizard of Oz.
Oh.
Yes, you did not know, did you, Philip, that the Judy Garland Wizard of Oz is a remake of the 1910 Wizard of Oz, which is based on the 1902 Broadway show. But the difference is the 1910 version has no songs in it. And obviously the Judy Garland version, Somewhere Over the Rainbow, all these things get added back in. And then Somewhere Over the Rainbow is a new edition for that film. But the rest, you know, like we're off to see The Wizard, the Wonderful, that's from the Broadway show. That's based on the book, The Wizard of Oz.
And now for something completely unrelated.
Have you seen what's happening at the Sphere at the moment? Speaking about like innovations in on the West Coast of America.
Jesus Christ, what are they doing now?
So you know the Sphere, that giant thing that's like a massive LCD screen on the outside and the inside. They have these like hugely detailed. So for like because I think we're getting to an anniversary of the Wizard of Oz, and they're showing the Judy Garland Wizard of Oz. I mean, the screen the Sphere is gargantuan. Like if you see pictures of it online, it's this huge thing. But they're showing it on a screen that looks like a postage stamp in the middle of a normal cinema screen. And what they've done is it's like they've taken it, they put it into Photoshop with one of these stupid Gen AI things and like filled out the rest of the background.
We could have left that alone.
It looks like ass. I have seen so many clips of this thing, and it's just the most, it's awful. It's like you're watching the film on like a tiny window floating in the middle of your desktop that's got this weird like uncanny void going on around it.
It's stupid Vegas people.
So the The Wizard of Oz was a hit, big hit, which again is really funny in the context of the Hollywood story, because the legacy of the Judy Garland film is so Hollywood, is so peak golden age Hollywood. So for Hollywood to really get its party started in 1910 with The Wizard of Oz, a different version obviously, is fitting. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. And maybe Wicked will kill Hollywood. I don't know, but it could also usher in a new golden age. Here's the thing. That movie wasn't made in Hollywood. It was made in Edendale, which is not Hollywood. It's not far from Hollywood, but it's a different set of hills, like Glendale, and like this is over where the Griffith Observatory is, whereas Hollywood is on a different set of hills west of there. And after making the money on The Wizard of Oz, the Selig company builds the first ever studio lot in Edendale. They don't move. They just expand from a bungalow to a lot like you would expect to see now, where there's like a couple of warehouses, you know, like a little neighborhood scene set up that you can kind of change and, you know, for the seasons or whatever. That all got set up in, again, what is now today the Silver Lake area. And with Selig's success, other companies start coming over, with the next big one being in 1911, the American Film Company, very inventive name. They set up shop in El Cajon, California. So they specialized in making Westerns. And they felt that El Cajon, which is north of San Diego and is in San Diego County, was ideal for like the rugged West. And it had big, huge tracts of land that they could buy for cheap. And the sun shines in San Diego as much as it shines in Los Angeles. So by 1911, we've got multiple film studios set up in Southern California, taking advantage of, one, all the things that people say, cheap land and sunny days. That are the reasons. Also, two, for the real reason anyone went to Southern California, which is to get the hell away from Thomas Edison. But none of them are in Hollywood. They're in Silver Lake and they're in San Diego. Which is strange, right? So how do things move from there up to the hills of Hollywood? Now, Phil, how familiar are you with the geography of the city of Los Angeles? Can you name for me 3 non-rich neighborhoods in the city of Los Angeles?
Oh God, I'm not even sure. I mean, I can name a few.
You obviously haven't been watching enough Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Uh-oh.
I mean, obviously you already mentioned Beverly Hills. Venice Beach is a part of...
Sure. Yep. Check.
No, not Malibu.
Malibu is outside. You're in a suburb loosely of Los Angeles. I'll give you half a point.
Hang on. What's the one? What's the one where Steve Cupertino?
That's San Francisco. That's at the bottom of the San Francisco Bay. That's okay.
And now for something completely unrelated.
By the way, Naomi, you're claiming that Keeping Up with the Kardashians has given you intimate knowledge of the neighborhoods of Los Angeles. So please, by all means, Phil's at 1.5. What's that?
Hidden Hills?
Sure.
Is that a place?
That sounds familiar.
And... it begins with a C, I think. Calabasas.
So Calabasas and Hidden Hills are also just the other side of the mountains from Malibu. So I've given you you're up to 1 point. You've scraped together 2 half points. There's Skid Row. Anybody heard of Skid Row before? Does that mean anything?
Little shop of horrors.
Also, in the Kardashians, they take the Kardashians when they're younger to go see Skid Row and show them how horrible people's lives are when they're not rich, and they watch them from the blacked out windows of their cars and go, "Oh no, these poor people, their lives so shit."
They're not even that poor. Skid Row is in downtown Los Angeles. The real estate in Skid Row would be enough to buy Sheffield. Like, it's not 1981.
Oh, the Kardashians were horrified. So
I know. It's just because they're so stupidly rich. So, when we look at early Los Angeles, so 1800s Los Angeles, so after the Spanish are gone, and it's firmly part of the United States, from about 1850, right? You've probably heard of 1849, the gold rush. That's more up north, but Los Angeles does see some Americans, air quotes, moving into that region. And we're going to ignore the whole 10,000 years of history where there were indigenous peoples living there. That's a story for another day. Boyle Heights is on the east side of the Los Angeles River, which is a river today that is just a concrete embankment because water rights in Los Angeles, very complicated. And before 1890, Boyle Heights was the wealthiest neighborhood in the area. It was right by the river, low, flat land, very easy to build on, great great territory for orange groves. Lots of orange plantations, sort of along from shocker into Orange County. I wonder where Orange County get its name, which is the county south of Los Angeles. All there, and the land down by the river, where one might live in a van, was selling on average for $20 an acre in 1890. Now, $20 an acre in today's money is still somewhere in the neighborhood of like $3,000 or $4,000 an acre. So not that bad, actually. $3,000 an acre, good, actually. Meanwhile, the hills all around Los Angeles, Burbank, that towards that area, or again west to the Hollywood Hills or the Beverly Hills, they would sell for under $5 an acre. Nobody wanted that land. The land that we now think of as the wealthiest parts of Los Angeles was, in 1890, garbage. And the land that today we think of as where the poor people live, they're Kardashian apparently, like Skid Row and Boyle Heights, and that area is around downtown Los Angeles. That was where the wealthy land was. And it was that way because the LA River naturally takes you to the harbor. So barges can easily carry goods down. And Skid Row, which is the west side of the river, was a booming industry town. Mills, a lot of sawmills coming up, a lot of places that were processing all the agricultural goods that are being made on the east side of the river. So people live east of the river and they work west of the river, which means they need what, Phil?
A bridge.
A bridge, yes. Massive, massive expenditure. Big bridges. All of the bridges today that are not federal highways that cross the LA River were basically built between about 1880 and 1910. They're all old. They're old and it shows. But the funny thing is, if it's 1890, people don't have cars, right? Because the automobile is a brand new invention. So what they actually need is not just bridges, but bridges that specifically are electric rail lines. So the wealthiest people in LA put all their money together with the government of Los Angeles County and the government of California up in Sacramento, and they built out a massive infrastructural investment of electric rails, which today we would call light rails.
So these are like the streetcars. These are
Yeah, exactly. These are more like a double-decker London bus, but on tracks. So they're big. They can move a lot of people. They can move like 80, 90, 100 people at a time. And the reason that people wanted this was because the rich people who owned all the land that they bought and was too expensive now for anyone to want to buy, they started subdividing their land so that they could rent that property out to more and more working class people. So you're like, build the infrastructure so that poor people can get to work. And then we can take advantage of those poor people and keep charging them higher and higher rents because they live closer to the rail infrastructure.
God damn it.
This sounds familiar. Every city, right? So that land just keeps getting more and more profitable. Everyone is making so much fucking money in Boyle Heights, a neighborhood that clearly neither of the two of you have ever heard of. Still there. Now, working class people, Phil, 1890, 1900, you're a working class person. Are you a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant?
Are you bollocks?
No, you're black or you're brown, or according to, swear to God, if you read the LA county, like the register from, I think it's 1897 or something. They're at the meeting, the minutes of the meeting. People complaining not just about the black and brown people or those Eastern immigrants, the ones from Russia and Poland, but the worst of them all, of course, the Jews. They said it. They just said the worst part is the Jews.
Oh, Christ. Oh, no.
I hate
there
history.
It is.
I've dedicated my life to it. And every day I go, why are we this way? Why have we been this way? So increasingly, that land that becomes super profitable is land being used by, and I'm quoting, undesirables, end quote.
Oh, God.
So that by 1915, 1920, there's no land left in Los Angeles that isn't either factory land, these neighborhoods full of, quote, undesirables, end quote, or those awful hills that nobody wants because why would you want to, that nobody wants to live up there? One, there's no electric rail to get you up there. So getting up there and down to something you might want, like going to the theater, that's a pain in your ass. Two, you can't make any money off of it because you can't grow anything. It's awful. It's just terrible up there. So somebody had to come up with a plan. Phil, I know you're a little bit younger than me. Clearly Naomi was a child when this happened, but what do you remember about the 2008 financial collapse / housing market thing?
Oh, God. I mean, if I'm honest, at the time, I don't remember a lot happening because I think most of my bandwidth that summer, like The Dark Knight came out that summer, and that was a big formative thing for me. So that really was my 2008. All the stuff that I know now about the 2008 crisis, most of it I learned from Margot Robbie in a bubble bath explaining to me what subprime mortgages were. So, like, I'm aware of the finance and a kind of vague thing about, like, it was to do with mortgages and the way that the banks started, like, using mortgages to essentially bet, and that because they flooded the market with too many mortgages, it just made the housing market unsustainable and the whole thing just collapsed from the inside, basically.
I remember it from Margot Robbie as well. I actually knew that reference. I was very proud of myself.
Hey, well done.
See, it worked.
Yeah.
It worked. I, of course, know about it because I was an adult when it happened. And it robbed me of many dreams. No, I'm fine. Everything worked out in the end. It just happened a little slower than I was expecting. That's all.
See, this is the difference between, this is like, you know, you watch those dreams die. I watched you watch those dreams die. And then Naomi just never had any of those dreams. So Naomi is fine.
I could never afford a house anyway. In my whole lifetime.
Oh, it's so accurate. It's so painfully accurate.
And now for something completely unrelated.
God damn it. I just love the coverage of Gen Z where just millennial journalists being like, why aren't they upset about the things that I am upset about? And like, his brother, they don't fucking care. They were children when that happened. And no, they don't go drinking in a parking lot with their buddies until they can't move and then somehow drive home. They have, like, I don't know, wine brunches in 2:00 in the afternoon. Let them live. Let the kids.
It's like we learned nothing about the fucking avocado toast years. Like, you know, we literally just took all those same articles and just, like, replaced millennial with Gen Z and just continued churning them out.
And we made it about clubbing. We're just like, Gen Z don't know how to club anymore. It's just like everyone else was like to you, all they do is eat avocados. Yeah.
I cannot believe that's a New York Times article. The key thing about the 2008 financial collapse is that the housing market was an unlimited supply of growth, right? That is why so much money got invested and so much money got gambled, accurate portrayal, was because the wisdom was real estate is an investment. Everyone knows that you buy a house for price X, you sell a house at some point in time for price Y. Y is always greater than X. Period. Right? We, Phil and I, are homeowners. Sorry, Naomi. I don't mean to brag. Don't want to ruin your day.
I'm staying right here.
So even we engage in that mentality. We are both expecting that should we sell our homes and move, we should, even if we only sold it for £1,000 more than we bought it, fine. We still know that it will accrue some value. That's fundamental to real estate. That is not how anything worked until the 1920s. Land changed value all the time. In fact, land's value, again, mostly depended on what's its functionality, right? So if it's undeveloped land, can you grow something on it? Can you build infrastructure across it, like a railroad or some sort of a highway so you can move goods through it? Or maybe you can build a factory, that kind of thing. That was one. Another metric of the value of land was, again, its convenience. So everything that happened in Boyle Heights, that land became more and more valuable because more and more people were working in the factories and needed somewhere to live. But you'll note, I said rent. The rental income in Boyle Heights is what went up. The people who owned that land did not sell that land because that land itself was not that valuable. Yeah, the selling point would be, oh, you can get like $600 a year in rental income, which is a thing you see in real estate advertisements all the time. But that's not how we started operating from about the 1920s forward. And that's why the 2008 financial collapse was a housing market, was because people go, oh, well, everyone knows your house accrues in value without ever stopping to think about that.
This literally happened with comic books in like the 1980s and this was a thing. Like it was the speculator bubble. Like people would buy up comic books just like assuming that they were going to appreciate in value because people started selling like Action Comics #1 for, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. And you're like, oh, well, these things are always going to appreciate in value. So people put out more and people bought more and then the bubble burst.
Yeah. The difference, of course, being if you don't make any money off your comic book collection, then your bins will be fuller for the next couple months. Whereas if you don't make any money in your house, you're homeless? ? Of course.
Slight difference there, I'll grant you.
Ever so slightly different. But as with all great disasters, Phil, this story starts with Universal Pictures. That's it. I was waiting. I just wanted that sweet, sweet laughter. Universal Pictures owned so after Selig and all those guys move in and more companies are coming in from the early 1914, late 1913, Universal Pictures buys a massive amount of ranch land that takes up a bit of what is today Griffiths Park to the tune of about 1,299, I think is the exact number, acres large, big. And they want to make movies on that. They want to set that up as we'll have this low, flat area and we'll have this mountainous area and we can do sets or we can do things like Westerns and what have you. And for the better part of a year, they make a few films, none of which makes any money. And then in August of 1914, all of the sets and the buildings and property owned by Universal on that ranch suddenly caught on fire. Who knows why?
Oh, no.
Why would it suddenly catch on fire? Nobody knows. But what they do know is that Universal Studios received a large sum of insurance payout the second that those fires stopped smoldering.
Shocking. Can I just interrupt to tell a really funny Universal story?
Mm-hmm.
You'll know my answer to this, Andrew. What's the greatest movie ever made? If we're talking about Universal, what's the greatest movie ever made?
Oh, Back to the Future?
Back to the Future, greatest movie ever made.
Yeah.
So for a long time, it's funny that you mentioned the whole set burning down thing. So Back to the Future, obviously they had the practical set that was like the town square of the Tower Hill Valley for Back to the Future. And they had the same set, and then they gussy it up for part 2 that's in the future, and then they like dial it back for part 3, which is set in the Old West. And for a long time afterwards, you could go and you could see like the town square, and you could see the diner, and you could see the courthouse with the clock that stopped at 10:04 because lightning struck the clock tower. And then sometime, I think it was in the late 90s or the early aughts, that set, which had been like a tourist thing for years, burned down. You know how it burned down, Andrew? You know what caused the fire?
God, I hope it was kids smoking weed.
Oh. Yeah, in California there's a good chance, but that's not the narratively satisfying answer, which is lightning struck the clock tower.
Sick.
So there you go. There's life imitating art.
Universal Studios just loves making money off of fires. That's what we've learned today. If nothing else. So when we get to 1914, Universal Studios maybe allegedly committed insurance fraud, gathered a large sum of money, sold off its ranch land, and they cordoned off a bit of so remember the hilly land sells for cheap. So they want to maximize what they can get land-wise for this money that they've suddenly come into. And they build what is today Universal City. So Universal City was built in 1915. It is still there. It is still where Universal Studios in Los Angeles is. It is still where Universal Studios headquarters is. They still make movies there. And there's a theme park that you can go to. And John Lovitz had a failed comedy club in Universal City, like 10 years ago, that did podcasts. It was weird.
Wow. That's fascinating. I had no idea that the studio, I know people have been to Universal Studios. I had no idea that like Universal Studios, the theme park, and Universal Studios, the studio, were like next to each other, were like occupied the same space.
Yes. That was the original point of the Universal Studios theme park, was that you could go where the movies are made, and we'll add some attractions so that there's something for you to do instead of watching, I don't know, Billy Crystal eat a sandwich and complain about it for 3 hours. Like, movie sets are not fun. They're actually not exciting at all. They are places of work, and they are boring. Sorry.
I don't know. I would pay a large amount of money to watch Billy Crystal eat a sandwich for 3 hours.
Jesus Christ. Whatever rocks your boat. Your fetish is your business. The ranch that was burned down, they end up selling off as parcels of land that today we actually call the Valley. Like the area of Los Angeles that is often referred to as the Valley, a lot of it, like Reseda, like think of the Karate Kid. A lot of that area used to be the original Universal Studios before Universal City was begun. And Universal made more money selling the parcels of land by saying that this land was adjacent to a Hollywood film studio. Then they made on the insurance fraud or made on making movies. This was the largest revenue generator for Universal Studios. It was just all this land that we cleared very, quote, allegedly illegally, and then we built our Universal City for the cheap. That land sale made us more money than anything else.
I think I'd had to check this, but I think I'm right in saying that there's a similar thing with Disney. Like, if you look at like where Disney gets its revenue from, like by far the biggest generator of revenue for Disney is the theme parks. It's like orders of magnitude more they get from that than from any of the films or from any of the merchandising. So there's an argument to be made that like everything that Disney does is just a giant. It's just a giant sort of proving ground for what can we put in the theme parks. We've got to find new stuff to put in Disneyland Tokyo. Let's make a few movies and see what sticks.
That Eisner fella, he was smart. So this is the beginning of Hollywood. So Universal City is like across the street from the Hollywood Hills. It's technically over on the Griffith side of the equation, but we are like, we can see, like we're looking out our window into the Hollywood Hills. It's right there. And I think some people might throw it in and say it's East Hollywood, but I'm not going to listen to those people. They're wild. This is how Hollywood gets built. People make these, they buy these huge chunks of extremely cheap land in all of the areas that we call from Malibu, including places like Malibu and Calabasas, but Hollywood and Beverly Hills and all of that. Burbank eventually gets done this way too. They buy all this cheap land up. They commit some form of either A, insurance fraud, or B, tax evasion. All of that is what starts to happen. And Hollywood is an incredible, Hollywood is a Hollywood story. It is a confluence of people who are scammers, people who invested early and are trying to get a maximum payout, and collusion with print media. So, two of the boys from Boyle Heights who were making money off of the streetcars, okay? Eli Clark and M.H. Sherman bought 640 acres at the top of Beechwood Canyon. They formed a partnership with Harry Chandler, the publisher, the owner of the Los Angeles Times. And they worked together with real estate developers to design, quote, exclusive hillside community in this land. So it's a hillside community that's gated, that's protected from the people who live down the hill. Remember all the black people, and of course they were scared of Jews. All those people down the hill. It's in these hills where you can see Universal City, and you can now see by this point the Fox Studios have established themselves, and I think those are the two main ones you can see. That's all happening over there. UCLA is going to be on the other side. And to sell it, Chandler, who owns the largest paper in Los Angeles, the Times, free advertising. These crazy full-page advertisements. Never discloses the fact that he's like a 10% owner of all of this property and that he's going to get paid. And then Chandler comes up with a truly brilliant idea. Because this is going to work. We'll make some money, but if we really want to churn it, if we really want to make money off it, we need a grand display. So, in 1923, they construct a giant sign that says Hollywood land in the hills. The Hollywood sign that originally said Hollywood land was just a fun, playful word. Hollywood land just sounded really fancy and free. And the sign went up before anyone lived in Hollywood. It's not that the sign goes up because Hollywood is so famous. It is the billboard that makes Hollywood.
Jesus.
And it's such a big spectacle building these giant letters, which you can see all the way to Catalina Island on a clear day. Like you like out across the sound. You can see this. That's what makes people buy their houses. They invest in it. And then studios want to be near that spot because the people who are buying those houses are the producers and the directors and the movie stars of these movies in this burgeoning industry, because it's so cool and hip that they've made this Hollywood land sign in these hills, and they've got these really fancy houses where you don't have to be around the smelly people down at the bottom of the hill, and your commute to work is just across the street to Universal City.
So you're saying that if like Hull put a sign up that in really big letters of Hull, then loads of celebrities would move there?
I mean, Hull is still Hull. The weather is actually nice in Los Angeles.
Damn, I thought people just love signs.
I mean, a Hull would be a lot easier because you wouldn't even need the H really. You just have Hull. It would just be 3 letters.
Oh, that's right. Nobody needs to pronounce it. And just like Hollywood Land lost the land, actually, the reason Hollywood Land just says Hollywood now is because it was so poorly maintained for decades that the land part just fell down. And when it fell down, people in Los Angeles were like, guys, this is important. This is history. This is everything that represents us as a city. We have to protect at least the Hollywood part. If land is going to fall down, at least let's keep the Hollywood. None of them really knowing that, no, it was just a fucking billboard. It was a billboard erected by people who were committing insurance fraud, trying to sell land that they bought for a nickel to people for a quarter.
I think I know. When you talk about that thing about restoring the Hollywood side, I think I know a fun fact about this, which is I think it was a consortium there were like various Hollywood figures, various like producers, actors, musicians, people like that, who essentially kind of pooled their resources together in order to like, you know, pay for the renovation and then the upkeep. There's a list somewhere where essentially like each of the letters you can see who contributed to that particular letter. The one that stuck in my mind is I think Alice Cooper owns one of the O's. I think he owns the O in Holly in the Hollywood sign. Like he put the money forward that like went to that letter in particular. So there you go. Alice Cooper owns the O in Hollywood, one of the first O in Hollywood.
He's got 2 O's in his name. He might as well own. I would assume he'd want one of the O's in wood, but hey, you got to beggars can't be choosers. So all of that to say, the reason Hollywood became the center of cinema is because a bunch of people trying to avoid Thomas Edison at a party started going to Los Angeles, and then a bunch of land speculation coupled with blatant insurance fraud meant that the hills around Los Angeles became extremely profitable, and absolute grifters put the biggest billboard that anyone had ever seen up. And once all the suckers from this burgeoning film industry bought those houses and started living in Hollywood, momentum has carried it through the rest of the century. It's just famous now because it's been famous. That's all it really boils down to. So the point, the lesson, threading the needle here is that, well, one, isn't it funny that we tend to think, oh, Hollywood must have just been where the films were made. Hollywood is not where the films are made. Very few films are made in Hollywood. Century City and Universal City are as close as you get to being in Hollywood, but Hollywood is not where the films are made. It is where people who make the films live, but also, like, not the A-listers. I mean, Calabasas, like Naomi's nailed it. Like, that's where the Kardashians live. Brad Pitt lives in Malibu. You know what I mean? Like, they moved out of that shit a long time ago. And it is the legacy of the billboard that is really carrying Hollywood and the Walk of Fame, the Chinese theater, which I don't think we call the Chinese theater anymore, but sure. That has like helped carry it forward. But it's not because that's where movies were actually made. It is really just some scammers managed to trick these new celebrity people into spending a lot of money. Which brings me back to my original point, is that we love the narrative that everyone went to Hollywood because sunshiny days and cheap land was perfect for the films they were making at the time, the technology they had, and really it was art slowly corrupted over time. But the reality of the situation is that Hollywood was corrupt before Hollywood existed. There was not even a Hollywood land, and the people in charge of things like Universal Studios, who made the greatest film of all time, Back to the Future, they have been grifters, committing insurance fraud, and being racist against Black, brown people and Jewish people the entire time. Or as I like to call it, 100 years, 100 movies, AFI.
Wow. I feel like there's an extra thing there, which is just like people just like living next to a billboard. I'm thinking about, like, there's loads of examples of this where like I think about in England, like the Crystal Palace, which is like Crystal Palace, the area of London. That was just put up for like the Great Exhibition of 1857. And we're like, oh, we like this Crystal Palace that we put. Let's just keep it up. The Eiffel Tower was just a billboard for a World's Fair in Paris, and that's still going. 200 odd years later. People really just like living next to billboards. People just really like living next to billboards. That's actually a great takeaway from this episode. People love living next to a billboard. Anyway, what did you learn, Phil? If you could name 2 or 3 things that you took from this episode, what would you say? Oh, yeah, these are the new lessons I've learned from this one. Even the greatest artistic endeavors in the world can be done for incredibly petty reasons, like not wanting to talk to one douche at a party. Accurate. Insurance fraud is fine as long as it gives us a great time travel movie. Okay. I mean, not just that. Also, Jaws. Like, there are other good movies that came out of Universal Studios. I mean, I'm sure there are other. I'm sure there are other perfectly cromulent films that came out of Universal, but The Fate of the Furious. And yeah, I think I nailed it the first time. People just like living next to billboards. People just like living next to billboards. So, gang, if you could live under a billboard in a house, but if you could live under a billboard, you are fulfilling that most human of endeavors. Like the other human endeavor that we all have, which is to support our fellow humans, and you can support us. That's me. That's Naomi. Probably Phil too, by subscribing to the podcast. You're listening to it right now. It's in your ears, or you're watching it right now. There's a subscribe button somewhere. Go ahead and click that subscribe button, please, so that you can hear more, because we'll be back in a couple weeks with more. And there's other episodes you may not have heard. It's entirely possible. That's the number one way you can support us.
And honestly, if you also want to find the show notes or unlock right now 12 bonus episodes for just $2, you can go to patreon.com/seemingly unrelated. And you can do that right now. Patreon.com/seemingly unrelated. It's another great way for you to support us. $2 buys you 20 hours of joy. Just think about that. Phil, if anyone out there listening is looking to find you, where can they find you on the internet?
So my website is philwbayles.com. You can find quite a lot of my writing there, some short stories, some essays on popular culture, film, television, video games, the trials and tribulations of writing fiction, sometimes stuff about being a dad. I've had some stuff published in the last couple of months at 50wordstories.com and Twisted Ink, which is a literary journal based right here in Sheffield. Phil W. Bayles is also my handle on Instagram and on Blue Sky, so people can. Those are the two main places I post up. People can find me there. I'm also shopping around for an agent to try and sell my first novel. So if any of your fine listeners are agents who would be interested in a speculative fiction novel about Uber drivers for the dead, hit me up.
Excellent. And I can say that I haven't read the speculative fiction novel, but I have read the 50-word story about baby, and I got to tell you, folks, it's worth it. I also need to bleep the name of that baby now because SEO will absolutely eat me alive if I merely utter that historical figure's name. So please join us in 2 weeks' time where we will be not living under a bridge downtown, but perhaps under a billboard next to your heart. We've been Seemingly Unrelated. I've been Andrew. Thank you so much. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you for having me. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Bye-bye. Seemingly Unrelated is a Life's Little Murder Boards production. Created and hosted by Andrew Johnstone, audio production and editing services provided by Naomi Cohn. Our artwork is by Megan Zemet. The theme song is Irizumi by Pistol Jazz. To find out more about everyone involved and access the show notes for this episode, visit us at seeminglyunrelatedpod.com. Actually, you know what they gave me, Phil? I forgot to tell you. The shit you used to be addicted to.
Oh my god, is it Sudafed?
No, it's the Vicks. That stuff. Yeah, Ultravine.
Decongestant.
Yeah.
That's a story for a whole other time.
That guy was like, don't use it for more than 5 days. People get really dependent on it. I go, I know my friend did that, and he was using it for like 2 years.
I had to. It got so bad. I was ordering it to France when I was on my year abroad. That's how bad it got, Naomi. It was like Train Spotting, but with a model railway.
I was about to say, idea for a remake of Train Spotting. Everyone's addicted to nasal sprays.
Less edgy.
Oh, there's no edges on me, Naomi. None whatsoever.